Chapter 1 of The Ghosts of Piccadilly. This is a LibriVox recording. All LibriVox recordings are in the public domain. For more information or to volunteer, please visit LibriVox.org. Recording by Peter Yearsley. The Ghosts of Piccadilly by G.S. Street. The Preface. When prefaces are read at all, they are read most often after the rest of the book, and nearly always, I imagine, they are written after it. But I am writing this before a line else of my book is done, and on this ground I venture to approach the courteous reader with the hope that he also, if this beginning should catch his eye, will be unusual and read the preface before the book. I wish to place before myself, as well as before him, precisely, more or less, what I shall try to accomplish. There is no new salient fact to be told of Piccadilly. The keen eyes of the late Mr. Peter Cunningham and of Mr. H.B. Wheatley have noted practically every house where a great man lived, and have told us the complete story of Piccadilly's origin and early eventfulness. I wish at the outset to express my great and essential obligation to them, and to other writers on the subject, more especially to Mr. Wheatley's Roundabout Piccadilly and Pall Mall, to which book my own is indebted for a great many facts and references. At this point, too, I wish to thank the Reverend W. J. Lofty for many useful hints in my work. But other writers occupying a much wider field than mine have had of necessity to confine themselves, for the most part, to telling us that in such and such houses lived such and such men, of whom such and such anecdotes are told. My local limitation enables me to attempt something more, and that is to recall in some fashion, if I may, the atmospheres that were about these men, and the tales told of them. I have space to elaborate and gossip, and so I propose to fill it. I trust there is no immodesty in avowing this desire to add something, in a sense, to the work of men much superior to me in antiquarian knowledge. The rest of the book will show if the hope was foolish, but I would claim the antecedent excuse of fairly wide and constant study in our social history since Piccadilly began to be built, of a great love for these associations, and for this helps, I think, that my feet have trod its pavement most days for years whose number is beginning to depress me. A local limitation of this sort may not be obviously useful. On a gossip, however, some limit must be put, and this one suggests a more variously interesting book than if I had chosen a wider space and a shorter period. Having taken it, I shall keep to it strictly. We shall walk up no streets on the right or left. The Albany, I think, one may take as a single house rather than a street. If that be an exception, it is the only one. And surely, if any part of any city deserves a book to itself, it is Piccadilly. We shall stand, the reader and I, before some house in the hours when the traffic is stilled, and I shall tell him of its history, of the men and women who dwelt there, and talked, and loved, and gambled, and lived and died. And since to interest him I must interest myself, I shall follow the lines of my temperament and tastes, rather than those of completeness and impartiality. It is likely I shall be voluble about Byron, and reticent about Macaulay. If the tale bores him, he can to bed without discourtesy. G.S. Street. Chapter 1. A General View. Standing to-day in Piccadilly, in any ordinary hour of the traffic, or sitting in a room facing it, with the window open, we remark that we cannot hear ourselves speak. So my book is in some measure an epitaph, for a place where we cannot hear ourselves speak is not likely to be favoured with fresh associations of the sort I commemorate. People will cease to live in it or to walk in it for pleasure. Even clubs will disappear from it, and hurry up side streets in search of comparative quietude. The advocates of motor omnibuses claim that the main thoroughfares must be given up to them, and people who value peace live elsewhere. Either that, or the machines must be made noiseless, which even their advocates do not contemplate, or our nerves must become insensible. It is true that 100 years ago, with the
Sample complete. Ready to continue?